Hey everybody, welcome out to the Dice Tower. My name is Chris Yi.
Jason Levine, the gaming machine.
Tonight, we're filming this late at night.
Tonight.
Yeah, Dice Tower tonight. We're going to be covering this game here, Yunnan, a game that, just got reprinted from Spielworks, actually.
Yes.
Though originally from 2013.
Yes, Argentum did the original version a long time ago, over 10 years ago.
This is a game that, it was kind of first brought up because it was on your top 100 games of all time. So, surprise, Jason likes it. But we recently played this new edition of it, so I'm going to show you how it plays, and then we'll give you our thoughts. Here is Yunnan set up on the table. This is a bit of an auction game where players are trying to advance their meeples along to these different provinces or regions here on the board from the starting position to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in order to collect more income and be able to win more auctions and collect victory points. Points are tracked by these squares over here, which will go around the board, and the game will end when someone hits 80 points or when all of these gifts or these presents have been collected from off of the map. So, how does this auction game work? Well, players have these pieces unavailable to them at the start. These are won through winning auctions, and then these are what the players have to work with, along with money, which I'm just kind of holding off screen because you can understand how to spend money. Let's talk about the auctions, though. There are 5 auctions shown down here on the bottom of the board in the typical game. This one over here is a little expansion type thing folded in where you can put out a blocker piece. That's its own auction. But this over here is going to be the basics of the game. In player order, as shown over here, in the first part of the round, you'll be doing actions from left to right. In the second half, player order will actually be reversed, going from right to left. So let's talk about where it goes from left to right. Blue is going to be able to place out a piece and auction for some benefit here. This one is going to allow players to get more of their meeples, more people available to have for auctioning, or as you notice, these are the same pieces that are actually advancing along the tracks. So blue might go here. Red is next, and they might go over here to increase their movement potential and also endgame points. Yellow might choose to go next over here to advance their horse marker further along. Blue is now out of pieces, but they could choose to take pieces from anywhere off the board and continue to bid. And they might bump people out of a bid by going higher. Now red can choose to pass and they're done with auctions for this round. And yellow on their turn is going to go over here maybe to increase their standing on this track over here, or they could go over here to get more buildings. This continues, but you'll notice one other important thing is that as you outbid a player, they get bumped out. However, if you outbid a player over here starting at the 9, not only will the player get bumped out, but this 9 cost area is a guaranteed success. This player, yellow, will get to advance their horse. Even if blue comes in over here, outbids them, this still stays. Both of these players will get this benefit. Yellow just gets it at cheaper. That's why the 9 through 15 area is larger, is kind of shown separated a little bit. Players can also choose to take their workers and place it onto the track here, and then they would pass. So that's the first half, is auctioning these off. You would resolve the buildings, so blue would get an extra one of their workers over here. I'll throw it off frame, that's fine. Red is going to be able to advance up this track to get more movement. Yellow and blue both win this, so they'll get to advance their horses along these tracks. The horses denote how far you can move your people along the regions in numerical order. This track here is going to be your influence, which means as you move, you get to bump people back who have lower influence than you. And this last track over here is to get more of these buildings. So as yellow won that, they would collect a building that they can build later. This is also the bank spot where you can go to get more money. You get more money based on how high the total of all of the other spaces being paid for sum up to. If it was 38 money, then whoever went to the bank would get 13 because it's in this spot over here. So once this is resolved, play now goes into the backwards turn order that I mentioned for the movement and these other resolutions. It's going to go into this player order here. So starting with yellow, they get to move. How many spaces they get to move is based on this track. So yellow has 5 movement. So they could choose to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Something like that. red would get the next movement, and every time yellow moved, because they're lowest on the influence track, they don't get any movement. But if red bumps forward and comes over here, because blue and yellow are below them, he can actually choose to bump someone back out of that space. So that's the reason that you might want to be higher on the influence track. So all the players do their movements, so on and so forth, and then at the end of movement and at the end of constructing, then players will get to now look at the income. Why are players moving these pieces forward? Well, it's because they want to be collecting more money. The further along you are, each person in an area will generate more income. So over here, you would get 18 money, 15 money per person, 12, 9, 6, and if people are stuck here at the beginning, they're at 3. So you look at which place generates the most money, and then the inspector here comes. He's a jerk. He's going to come to this spot because this spot is generating the most money. 12, 5 times that 60 is being generated in this spot. So even though this one pays more, this has the highest total. And normally, yellow would get kicked back from this spot. Or actually, it's whoever has the highest influence. There's a whole tiebreaker series here, right? But having one of these tea houses built here distracts the inspector and won't kick somebody else back. But if there was not one of these, then a player would get kicked all the way back to the beginning spot, and that would wreck their income. Thankfully, yellow was smart and it planned accordingly. Now we're going to actually get the income. That's what these discs are for. So if you looked at yellow, yellow now has 36 from here, plus another 6, 42, and another 3 from here, 45. So yellow is going to mark this up at 45. You do the same thing with each of the different colors, and I'm not going to do all the actual math. But let's say this is the situation here. At the end of all of this, players are going to be able to get money or victory points up to the total amount that they have earned. This is enormous amounts here. So players would have to decide that. But first, gifts are going to be given to players who are in these different areas. So blue is alone here, so blue is getting more gifts. These are points. However, in contested areas, it's going to be whoever has the higher influence. So in this case, there's only one gift to be given, and that's going to red and not yellow. So you go through, you do all the rest of this stuff here, but the meat of the game is this decision. At this point, yellow is going to have to decide. I get 45 of something. Do I want that in points or do I want that in money? The only time that you're really collecting a lot of this money is at this stage of the game. So does yellow get a lot of money and a few points, or are they so far behind that they have to collect a lot of points? So let's say that they got 30 points and then they only got 15 money to actually use for their next auctioning round. This is crucial. So all players do that, and then also the player turn order is changed according to whoever has the lowest income versus the highest. So in this case, turn order returns, and then you would play another round after all players have collected points and money. Now that this is done, you start up another round and you keep playing until one of the 2 endgame triggers. There's a little bit of endgame scoring for moving up the tracks. For moving your horse further along, it's the same 1, 4, 9, or 16 point intervals. All leftover money is 3 coins for 1 point, which is why it's crucial to be doing this income transaction because you're getting a better return on it and everything. And then each of these presents is worth 3 points each. Whoever has the most points is the winner. First off, let's talk about kind of components and production and everything here. This is a newer edition, and I'm going to assume, I have not played the original, that this is much nicer.
Well, the components are basically the same. The wood components are the same. The meeples that you use as your workers are a little bit nicer, but the donkeys, the tea houses, everything else is basically the same components. The map is a lot nicer. The original map was more plain, and this map is obviously arted up and has countryside and everything in it. So the map was definitely nicer components. The rest of the game is basically the same. Okay.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that I think a lot of people will look at the map of this and say, like, ugly Euro game. You know, games look nicer these days than they did 12 years ago.
That's true. That's very true.
This is, at its heart, an auction game. Mm-hmm. And it's a I like this type of auction where there's the values kind of preset in there, so you avoid a lot of the like $5, $6. Wait for it.
$7.
Right. It kind of cuts to the values a little bit more quickly. I like the way that it's done in this.
Yeah, it does it similar to Amun-Ra, who had the same style bidding mechanism when you're bidding for the territories, and it does it in a way where if you bid a little, you might get shut out, but if you bid a certain amount, you're guaranteed the space, which is very neat.
Yeah, I agree, right? And multiple people can win an auction category, but having to pay more, you might just say, like, I'm going to jump on the $9 or the 9 money spot. I could maybe get away with 5 or 7, but at some point in the game, you're like, I just need it.
Yeah.
And I'd rather pay 9 and make you have to pay more after.
Pay 12. So, yeah, it works nicely in that regard because the people who make more money go later in the bidding turn order. So you could bid 9, force me to bid 12, and with more players, I might even get shut out. If we all want the donkeys, the first 3 players might bid 9, 12, and 15. And even if I want a donkey, I can't bid on it, and I'm forced to do something else.
Yeah, I think that this takes the auction, the core of the game, and does some really clever things that I've not seen other games do, honestly. Like I said, multiple people can win, but it's going to be in the pricey category. The other thing is that the same people, the workers that you have with which you bid on those areas, you also want to have them on the map to be able to utilize what you're winning from the auctions, move them around, get to the different areas, collect the different things that will be scoring you money and points.
Yeah, it's a good balance of how many things you want to bid in the auction versus how many pieces you want to have out on the board to get your money and points. And you can take pieces off, but if you do, all that movement you spent to move them up, you're forfeiting that to have to win something else.
It's got an old school Eurogame mentality where I will jokingly say, hey, what do you think of the catch-up mechanism in Yunnan? To which you would probably say, there is not one.
Yeah.
But there is something really clever in the turn order, the sequence of the turn order. It's not a catch-up mechanism, but it's just more of a key focal feature of the gameplay.
Yeah, it balances out where if you're going early in the bidding, things cost less, but then you're going later in the movement, which also works out because the people who go later in the movement could push people back. If they have the influence, they could push people back and get them to score less. So the people who move earlier are getting pushed back. Also, the people who move earlier are going to be hit by the inspector. So there is some balancing mechanisms in the game.
Right, but they're not a blatant, like, oh, you're doing bad, here's like a pat on the head and some extra money. Like, no, it's just that you're less likely to get punished by the built-in systems of the game. But if you're at a high-level play, you can really plan where you want to be in that turn order to kind of take best advantage of it. It reminds me of Power Grid in that way.
Yes, very much so, with the certain things go in one turn order, certain things go in the reverse turn order, and you want to be on the right side of everything to kind of get what you want in the bidding, but then also be able to move your pieces to the right place without getting them sent back to the beginning.
Right. As I said, this has for me, kind of an old school feel to it where you're just going to play poorly, I think, your first time. But as you come back to it, you'll understand the systems better. Do you have any other final thoughts before we kind of jump into scores here?
No, I mean, as you know, this is a game that I played a lot. It's in my top 100, so I still love it as much as I did when I played it 10 plus years ago, the first time.
So, final thoughts-wise and score, how I'm going to come down on Yunnan. For me, this one's a 7.5. I like it. I like auction games, and I particularly enjoy when an auction kind of drives a bigger board game. And this is a robust game outside of just the auctioning, which I like. In that sense, it is like Amun-Ra and Power Grid, games that we've kind of compared, but it stands on its own. I do find that those other games give me a few more like fun, clever moments, and this one's a little bit more punishing. It's a little bit more old school in that way. I don't think it's a mean game. There are a few kind of moments that you could like, whoo, ha-ha. But it it's one that's it's gonna force you to get better at it, and I think that's not going to appeal to everybody, but it does to me. I'm still recommending it, a 7.5 for me. Plus, it does a lot in a pretty quick time frame. I'm impressed with this one.
Yeah, for me, it's in my top 100. I give this a 9. I'm glad we revisited it and played it again because I hadn't played it in a few years, and it brings back everything that I liked about it the first time, which is it's a pure skill game. You have to decide how much you want to bid in an auction, when you want to bid in the auction, when you want to go to the bank, when you want to put your workers out to move, and you control your own destiny. There's no luck in the game. There's no randomness in the game. It's all pure skill, and you control your destiny all the way through. And I really enjoy that about this game because a lot of games have luck elements, and here there's no luck at all. It's just pure, what do I want to do? Am I willing to pay this much for it? Do I want to take more money? Do I want to take more points? And
that's such a brutal part, yeah.
It's such a balancing act of when do you start switching. Early you want money, and when do you do that switch and flip that switch and start getting the point to run up your score? It's such a good balancing act, and I really do love this game.
Yeah. So like I said, a little bit of that old school flair and a nice new presentation that I thought, hey, nice to revitalize, put a new coat of paint, scratch that backwards, on a classic game that still I think holds up well.
Very much.
Our thoughts on Yunnan, a high score of a 9, giving this one a Dice Tower seal of excellence. Thanks so much for coming out to this review. My name's Chris Yi.
Jason Levine, the gaming machine.
Until next time, have fun drinking that tea. Oh, I was close.
And drinking tea. I didn't expect you to say drinking the tea.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Bassett.